There comes a moment in every person's life when you've done all you can do, when you've prayed every prayer you know, when you've pushed, pressed, persisted, and yet the mountains still won't move. You've tried the strategy, you applied the wisdom, you exhausted the strength, and all that's left in your hands is emptiness. And in that moment, heaven whispers, "You've done enough. Let me handle it now." See, some of you have mistaken surrender for quitting. But surrender is not weakness, it's wisdom. It's the moment when faith steps in and human effort steps back. It's the moment when you stop trying to be God in your own story and let the author finish what he started. Because sometimes your hands are too full of your own plans for God to place his purpose in them. There's a time for working and there's a time for waiting. There's a time for doing and a time for trusting. And most of us are great at the first one. We know how to grind, how to hustle, how to fight. But the test of maturity is not in how much you can do. It's in how much you can trust when you can't do anymore. When the doors you've knocked on don't open. When the prayers you've prayed seem unanswered. When the people you depended on walk away. That's when heaven speaks the loudest. You've done enough. Step aside. I'm about to take over. You see, there's a divine hand that specializes in finishing what you started. God never called you to carry the full weight of your own destiny. He called you to cooperate, not to control, to obey, not to overthink. You plant, you water, but only God gives the increase. And if you're in a season where your effort hasn't matched your outcome, maybe it's because you're trying to do heaven's part with human strength. Faith was never meant to be about performance. It's about positioning. When you've done all to stand, then stand. When you've done all to believe, then rest. Because your faith doesn't make God move. Your faith makes space for him to move. Sometimes you've got to get out of the way so God can make the way. Think about it. Moses stood at the Red Sea with Pharaoh's army behind him and the waves in front of him. Every human option was exhausted. He had no plan B, no backup strategy. That's when God said, "Stretch out your hand, not run, not fight, not negotiate, just stretch. Do what's in your control and let me do what's beyond your control." And when Moses obeyed, the sea parted, not because of human logic, but because of divine intervention. Some of you are standing at your own Red Sea moment. You've done everything you know to do. You've prayed, you've given, you've sacrificed, you've stood firm, and it feels like nothing's changing. But I came to tell you, heaven is working behind the scenes. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not happening. God does some of his best work in silence. The seed grows underground before it ever breaks the surface. There's a difference between delay and denial. Just because it's taking longer than you expected doesn't mean it's not coming. Sometimes God delays your outcome to develop your character. Sometimes he withholds the answer to strengthen your dependence. Because if he gave you everything you prayed for when you prayed for it, you'd think your effort produced it. But when he lets you reach the end of yourself, you'll know without a shadow of a doubt that it was all him. Heaven is saying right now, you've done enough, let me handle it. You've cried enough tears, you've fought enough battles, you've worried enough nights. Now it's my turn, because I'm the God who finishes what I start. I'm the God who restores what's been broken. I'm the God who turns ashes into beauty and pain into power. You see, miracles happen when effort meets surrender, when faith meets stillness. The Bible doesn't say, be anxious and fix it yourself. It says, be still and know that I am God. Stillness doesn't mean inactivity, it means inner confidence. It means I'm not moved by what I see because I trust what I know. I know that heaven's timing is perfect. I know that what's meant for me can't be taken from me. I know that what God starts, he finishes. You may not realize it, but your waiting season is not wasted. It's a setup for divine acceleration. God often moves slow in preparation and fast in manifestation. You've been in the process for years, but when the moment comes, it'll happen suddenly. That's why he's telling you to rest, because he's about to make up for lost time. There's a story told of a silversmith who refined silver in fire. The metal must be heated until all the impurities rise to the surface. Someone once asked him, "How do you know when the silver is ready?" He said, "When I can see my reflection in it." That's how God works with you. He allows the heat, the pressure, the breaking not to destroy you, but to purify you until he sees his reflection in your character. When he can see himself in you, that's when the season shifts. That's when heaven says, you've done enough. I'll take it from here. Some of you are tired because you're trying to force outcomes that only obedience can unlock. You're trying to manipulate timing that only faith can sustain. You're trying to carry people that God has already told you to release. But heaven is saying, put it down. Stop carrying what I already conquered. Stop worrying about what I already worked out. You were never meant to live burdened. You were meant to live blessed. You were never meant to fight every battle alone. You were meant to rest in victory that's already been won. You were never meant to figure out every detail. You were meant to follow divine direction. When you finally reach the place where your strength runs out, that's when his begins. You may think your job is to fix it. No, your job is to trust him with it. You may think your responsibility is to make it happen. No, your responsibility is to make room for him to happen. The battle is not yours, it's the Lord's. When you understand that truth, peace replaces pressure, worship replaces worry, patience replaces panic. Sometimes God will let everything fall apart just to show you he's the only one who can hold it together. He'll let the door close, so you stop forcing it open. He'll let the plan fail, so you stop thinking you're the planner. Because until you learn to trust him fully, you'll keep living halfway surrendered, halfway stressed. But when you finally say, God, I've done all I can, now you take it, something shifts in the atmosphere. Heaven responds to surrender faster than it responds to struggle. You can't force what's divine. You can't rush what's eternal. God doesn't need your panic to perform his promise. He needs your peace. Because faith is not noise, it's knowing. It's knowing that if God said it, it's settled, even if the evidence hasn't shown up yet. Maybe you're in a place right now where everything feels quiet. You're wondering, God, where are you? But remember, teachers are silent during the test. Heaven is not ignoring you. It's measuring your trust. You're not being punished. You're being prepared. You're not being delayed. You're being developed. Every closed door, every unanswered prayer, every painful delay, it's not rejection, it's redirection. God knows what you don't. He sees what you can't. Sometimes he blocks what you think you want to protect what you truly need. Sometimes he lets the thing you wanted walk away because it would have cost you the thing you were born to do. Sometimes the no you're crying about is the yes that's saving your destiny. Heaven doesn't just respond to need, it responds to trust. When you trust God enough to stop trying to control everything, that's when things begin to align. Because trust is heaven's language. It tells God, I believe you even when I can't see you. It tells your circumstance, you don't have authority over my peace. When you live from that place, you stop striving. You stop chasing. You start resting. You start realizing that grace can do more in a moment than effort can do in a lifetime. One divine connection can do more than 10 years of labor. One open door can erase a decade of delay. That's why heaven is telling you to rest, because your labor has not been in vain. You've sown faithfully. You've prayed diligently. You've endured silently. And now heaven says, it's my turn. The same God who turned water into wine, who fed 5,000 with a few loaves, who brought Joseph from prison to palace overnight, he's about to do the same for you. But first, you must stop trying to make it happen on your own. Your obedience is the seed. God's timing is the harvest. Don't dig up what you planted just because it's taking time to grow. You don't need to understand the process to trust the promise. You just need to know that God never fails. There is a divine rhythm to life. Your part and God's part. Your part is faithfulness. His part is fulfillment. Your part is sowing. His part is growing. Your part is trusting. His part is transforming. But if you try to play both roles, you'll live exhausted. Let heaven do what only heaven can do. So tonight, as you reflect on all you've done, all the seeds you've planted, all the prayers you prayed, all the tears you've cried, remember this: you've done enough. Heaven has heard you. Heaven has seen you. Heaven has already scheduled your breakthrough. Now your only assignment is to rest in divine confidence. Because when heaven says you've done enough, it's not a dismissal, it's a declaration. It means your faith has reached the threshold. It means the shift has already started. It means the weight you've been carrying is being lifted. It means heaven's resources are now being deployed in your favor. So breathe, release the pressure, let go of control. You've proven your faith through your fight. Now prove it through your rest. Heaven is saying, I've got it from here. And when God takes over, everything changes. Doors open, mountains move, hearts heal, and the impossible becomes inevitable. You've done enough. Now let heaven handle the rest. There's a moment in every believer's journey when your spirit gets quiet, not because you've lost hope, but because deep down you realize you've reached the edge of what human effort can do. You've studied, you've strategized, you've worked until your body trembled and your mind grew weary. You've done everything they said you should do, and still the outcome hasn't aligned with your expectation. That's when the whisper from heaven comes. Not loud, not dramatic, but undeniable. You've done enough. Let me handle it now. And that whisper changes everything. It shifts the weight off your shoulders because you realize the outcome was never your responsibility. It was your obedience that mattered, not your orchestration. We live in a world that celebrates self-made strength, self-built success, and self-driven plans. But heaven doesn't operate on self. Heaven operates on surrender. Because the moment you surrender is the moment heaven can supply. The moment you release is the moment God can reveal. See, it's not that your effort was wasted, it was necessary. Your effort brought you to the door, but only God can open it. Your faith built the boat, but only God can send the wind. Your obedience created the opportunity, but only heaven can create the outcome. The point was never to outwork God. The point was to walk with him. Some of you have been so focused on making it happen that you've forgotten who's in control of how it happens. You've been fighting battles that don't even belong to you, trying to fix hearts that only God can heal, trying to build things that only grace can sustain. And you're tired, not because you're weak, but because you've been doing God's part as well as your own. You've been holding everything together, thinking that if you stop, it'll all fall apart. But heaven is saying, let it fall if it must. Because what I build, no man can break, and what you release, I can redeem. You've been faithful. You've shown up even when nobody saw your pain. You've given when it didn't make sense. You've forgiven when it wasn't deserved. You've believed when everything around you said it was over. That's not weakness, that's warfare. That's how heaven measures strength. And now, after all that standing, all that sowing, all that trusting, heaven says, now rest, you've done your part. I'll do mine. Rest doesn't mean apathy. Rest means confidence. It means I trust the timing, even when I don't understand it. It means I trust his promise, even when I can't predict the path. It means I trust his plan, even when it looks like nothing is happening. Because trust is the highest form of worship. Worship isn't just a song you sing when life is easy, it's the posture you maintain when life makes no sense. It's saying, God, I still believe you even when everything around me looks like you're silent. Do you remember Peter on the water? He stepped out because Jesus said, come. That one word had enough power to suspend logic. Peter walked on what should have drowned him, and then he looked at the wind and fear made him sink. But notice something, Jesus didn't let him drown. Even when Peter's faith faded, Jesus' grip didn't. You may have taken a step of faith and felt like you were sinking, but heaven's hand never let go. The fact that you're still here means God's grace still has plans for you. Some of you are trying to row through a storm that heaven wants to silence. You're straining at the oars when all you need to do is look up. Because sometimes the storm isn't your punishment, it's your protection. Sometimes the storm is heaven's way of stopping you from going in the wrong direction. You think it's a delay, but it's actually divine redirection. You got to understand, heaven operates on a rhythm that doesn't match human timing. We think in minutes, God thinks in moments. We measure by clocks, he measures by readiness. We cry because it's late, but God smiles because it's right on time. If the promise hasn't come yet, it's not because he forgot, it's because you're still being shaped for what you asked for. Heaven doesn't deliver gifts you're not ready to hold. When God says, let me handle it, he's not dismissing you, he's inviting you to experience a higher dimension of partnership. He's saying you've done enough in the natural, now step into the supernatural. Because your effort can plant a seed, but only heaven can produce fruit. Your wisdom can write the plan, but only divine power can breathe life into it. And sometimes, to make that shift, God will intentionally frustrate your plans. Not because he wants to harm you, but because he wants to heal your control. He'll let the thing you built crumble so you learn to build with him. He'll let the door you forced close so that you learn the beauty of divine timing. Because if it opens too soon, what's meant to bless you could break you. There's a reason diamonds are not formed overnight. Pressure and time are heaven's tools of perfection. You might be under pressure right now. You might feel like you're breaking, but heaven doesn't apply pressure to crush you. It applies pressure to shape you, because the greater the calling, the deeper the crushing. Every delay is a detail in disguise. Every setback is a setup for revelation. Think about Joseph. He had a dream, but before he saw the palace, he saw the pit. Before he wore the crown, he wore chains. But what Joseph didn't realize was that even in the pit, heaven was working. Even in the prison, favor was positioning him. He didn't have to fight for the palace. The palace came looking for him. Because when heaven decides it's your time, nothing can stop what's been ordained. And that's why God is saying to you, you've done enough. You don't need to beg. You don't need to prove. You don't need to chase the blessing attached to your name. Doesn't need to be hunted. It needs to be received. You've carried this thing long enough. You've wrestled with it, worried about it, lost sleep over it. But now heaven says lay it down. Because if you keep trying to control it, you'll delay what God is trying to deliver. You see, the human mind wants control because control feels safe. But faith is not about safety. It's about surrender. Faith says, even if I don't understand, I still trust the hand that's leading me. You don't have to understand the route when you trust the driver. You don't have to know the details when you know the designer. There's something powerful that happens when you finally let go. It's like heaven exhales on your behalf. Suddenly, the tension in your soul releases, and what once felt impossible begins to shift naturally. Because when you stop striving, heaven starts moving. Your obedience opens the door, but your surrender invites the glory. And make no mistake, heaven honors faith, but heaven also honors rest. There's a reason God himself rested on the seventh day, not because he was tired, but because he was finished. Rest is a statement of completion. When you rest, you're declaring, it is done. You're saying, I believe that what I've sown will grow. I believe that what I've prayed will manifest. I believe that heaven has already signed off on what I've been waiting for. Some of you have been walking through seasons where the silence feels heavy. It feels like heaven has gone quiet. But silence doesn't mean absence. It means alignment. It means heaven is rearranging things behind the scenes. The pieces are being moved. The connections are being set. The right people are being positioned. If you could see what's happening in the unseen, you'd stop worrying in the visible. You think heaven is late? But heaven is never late. Heaven is strategic. It waits until the moment when the glory can't be mistaken for human ability. That's why the miracle always happens when the situation looks impossible. So nobody can take the credit but God. You're standing at the edge of breakthrough. I can feel it. You're closer than you think. But God won't let you carry that old mindset into the next season. That's why he's making you release control now. Because in the next season, you're not going to be striving. You're going to be flowing. You're not going to be begging. You're going to be receiving. You're not going to be fighting to prove your worth. You're going to be walking in divine authority. Heaven is saying, stop trying to earn what's already been promised. Stop treating the blessing like a paycheck. You don't earn grace, you access it through belief. You don't perform for favor, you position yourself for it through obedience. Do you remember when Jesus fed the 5,000, the disciples panicked? They said, we don't have enough. But Jesus didn't need enough. He needed what they had. He took their little and multiplied it until it overflowed. That's what heaven does. It multiplies the little you surrender. You think it's small, but in the hands of the divine, it becomes more than enough. So when God says you've done enough, it doesn't mean stop believing. It means stop burdening yourself with outcomes that belong to heaven. It means shift from performance to partnership, from panic to peace, from pressure to presence. Because when you stop forcing, you start flowing. And when you start flowing, miracles find you, favor finds you, the right opportunities find you. You don't have to chase alignment. It will chase you when you're in rhythm with heaven's timing. You've been fighting for visibility, for validation, for victory, and all along, heaven was waiting for you to rest in identity. You're not trying to become worthy. You already are. You're not waiting for approval. You already have it. You're not trying to earn access. You already belong. So take a breath. You've done enough. Heaven saw every tear, every sacrifice, every prayer you prayed when no one else was watching. None of it was wasted. Every act of obedience has been recorded in the divine ledger. Every seed you've sown has been planted in spiritual soil. And now heaven says harvest time is near. But before the harvest, there's a moment of stillness. That's where you are right now. The in-between, the space between what was and what will be. It's uncomfortable because you can't see progress, but that's exactly where transformation happens. The caterpillar can't see the butterfly while it's in the cocoon, but it's being completely restructured from the inside out. You're in that cocoon. Everything familiar is shifting. The people you relied on might be gone. The patterns that used to work might have stopped working, but it's not because you failed. It's because you're being reborn. And when you emerge, you'll realize why heaven said you've done enough. Because the next chapter doesn't require more hustle. It requires more harmony. Heaven doesn't need your exhaustion to prove your devotion. Heaven needs your agreement. God doesn't bless burnout. He blesses belief. He doesn't move because of your worry. He moves because of your worship. When you say, God, I trust you even here, that's when heaven releases power. So right now, wherever you are, I want you to imagine releasing everything you've been carrying. The deadlines, the disappointment, the fear, the striving, just let it drop because you're not meant to carry it another day. The same God who spoke light into darkness is speaking light into your situation right now. The same God who parted seas is about to part away for you. The same God who raised dead dreams is breathing new life into yours. You've done enough. You've been faithful in the valley. You've endured the midnight hour. You've kept your faith when others quit. And now heaven says, step aside, watch me work. Because when God steps in, everything accelerates. What took years to build can shift in days. What looked impossible yesterday becomes inevitable tomorrow. And when the testimony unfolds, you'll realize this was never about your strength. It was about his sovereignty. It was never about your effort. It was about his evidence. So hold your peace. Lift your head. Stay expectant. Because heaven is handling what your hands can't. You've done enough. Heaven's turn has begun. So here's what I want you to hear in the deepest part of your spirit. Your striving season is over. You've planted, you've watered, you've wept, you've waited, and heaven took notice. The same God who called you to begin is now saying, let me finish it. You don't have to fight for what's already written. You don't have to chase what's already chosen. You don't have to prove what grace already approved. The burden is not yours anymore, it's his. This is your moment to breathe again, to stand still and see the salvation of the Lord, to trust that the same hand that carried you through the storm is the same hand that's now lifting you into your promise. You've done enough to be trusted with rest. You've done enough to qualify for peace. You've done enough to step back and say, God, it's yours now. Because the truth is, heaven never needed your perfection, only your participation. And now that you've done your part, heaven is stepping in with power. So rest your heart, steady your mind, and lift your eyes. What's been delayed is about to be delivered. What's been heavy is about to be lifted. What's been unclear is about to make perfect sense.
You've done enough?
Heaven has taken over. And when God finishes what he started, it will be greater, higher, and more glorious than you ever imagined.